Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. We have plenty to talk about in the world of Southern California sports, such as the Los Angeles Dodgers. They pulled it off against the San Francisco Giants in 5 games in the NLCS, and now they're advancing to the NLCS to take on the Atlanta Braves. Great job to the Dodgers. I had no doubt they would. And the Chargers pulled off a thriller against the Cleveland Browns, but they have another big challenge against the Baltimore Ravens, heading down to Maryland to take on the Dirty Birds. Can Justin Herbert and the Chargers zap the Dirty Birds? And then also, the Ducks and the Kings kicked off the seasons with victories as well. So good for the Anaheim Ducks and the LA Kings. And it was another disappointing day at the office for USC football, as they lost to Utah, and it was very ugly. All that and more, here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon. I really appreciate it. Without any further delay, let's get on into the Southern California sports action. But first of all, we have a word from our sponsors. iSports Radio is sponsored by the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. Congratulations to the Warriors on a big 44-0 victory over the Moreno Valley Mercury. It's a huge win for the Warriors, as now they're 4-3 on the season. They're above 500, and this weekend they are taking on the Inland Empire Kings, which will be the second meeting between the Kings and the Warriors. That was a big victory for the SoCal Warriors, defeating the Moreno Valley Mercury. I do got to admit it, the Moreno Valley Mercury has a nice ring to it. Moreno Valley Mercury. Props to whoever thought of that name. So, I'm getting off topic here. Back to the SoCal Warriors. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organization. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get film or playing to get film to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get the second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. You can follow the SoCal Warriors on Twitter at SoCal Warriors. You can also follow them on Instagram at Southern California Warriors. You can also follow them on Facebook by typing in the word Southern California and then the word Warriors. The second sponsor for iSports Radio is Background Check International Businesses. Are you looking to background check a new hire? Let Kit Freeman take care of that for you. Kit founded and has managed Background Check International Businesses since 1994, and he's here to help you with the screening process. Contact Kit and let him help make the hiring process that much easier. This business, however, is used for professional background checks and not for the use of any crimes such as identity theft or other illegal activity. They do not have Twitter or Instagram, but they do have Facebook by typing in the word background check, then international, then put a little dash, then put BCI. And they also have a website, www.bcint.com. So thank you to Background Check International Businesses and the SoCal Warriors for being the official sponsors of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And you can follow IE Sports Radio on Twitter and on Instagram at IE Sports Radio, and on Facebook by typing in the word IE, the word sports, and then the word radio. And then also check out the website, www.iesportsradio.com, where all of our shows and episodes get loaded into that little mainframe. Now let's get on into the Southern California sports world. So we got to obviously address the big news. The Dodgers are NLCS bound, which is awesome sauce. They defeated the Giants in Game 5 yesterday, 2-1. I do admit there was a little controversy. The last strike that was called, the guy didn't, the umpires thought he didn't check his swing, but it's kind of a little added justice for what happened the previous time, because ironically enough, the Giants won the NL West off of a checked swing versus not checked swing call. And Dave Roberts was irate at that call. So, funny enough, the Giants lost off of a checked swing call. So, it's kind of funny in a comical sort of way. I mean, it's not all that funny, but it is what it is. So, it is unfortunate that the Giants lost, and I said it before, I hate how one of these two teams has to lose, and I think the format kind of needs to be changed, but it is what it is. So only the strong survive, and unfortunately, the number 1 seed Giants just couldn't survive. The problem for the Giants is that they didn't put up too many runs in that game. Like, it was a pitcher's duel, yes, but the Giants had a good amount of opportunities to put runs on the board. So, all in all, for the Giants, they had a phenomenal year, and I tip my hat to them. I think they are a phenomenal team. They did everything they could to try to get the win in Game 5. And then, obviously, Game 4 was a complete train wreck, and then Game 2 was a train wreck as well. But they just they couldn't put up runs when it mattered most, just like how everyone was saying the Dodgers won 106 games but aren't winning when it matters most. So it's disappointing that the Giants lost, but it is what it is. So you can't change the past, unfortunately. And bad calls happen all over the place. So for the Giants, they could tip their hat on a phenomenal season, and it is a heartbreaking way to end off of a bad call. And everyone's saying, well, why don't the umpires review it? Well, checked swings aren't really reviewable, and from what I heard. And now I'm hearing that check swings are reviewable, but now they aren't. And then they're saying, what's the use of instant replay? And then there's also saying that people should bring in robot umps. Like, come on. Like, umpires are human too. Everyone makes bad calls. And I don't think Flores was going to get a hit on Max Scherzer anyway. Like, the Dodgers really shuffled their lineup in terms of pitching. They actually started Corey Knebel instead of Julio Urias. And that was a mind-blowing move by Dave Roberts. I did not think he was going to do that. So he started Knebel, then he brought in Urias, and Kenley Jansen wasn't even the closer. It was Max Scherzer. So starters were becoming closers were becoming starters, and then bullpen people were starting at pitcher. So I get why Dave Roberts wants to do it, though. He wants to burn the Giants' left-handers and force the Giants to make like rotations in and out. So all in all, for the Dodgers, it was a gutsy move and it actually paid off. So big props to Dave Roberts. I kind of would have wondered what would have happened if the move backfired. I think everyone would have been pointing the finger and saying, oh, Dave Roberts is an idiot and whatnot. So, yeah. So, all in all, for the Dodgers, they are moving on to the NLCS to take on a familiar foe in the Atlanta Braves. And believe it or not, the Braves have home field advantage just because they did win their division. The Dodgers, unfortunately, do not have that luxury despite winning 102 victories because they are a wild card team. And unfortunately for them, division winners get top priority when it comes to home field advantage. So, despite the Giants being out of the playoffs, the Dodgers will not have home field advantage unless they take on the Boston Red Sox, who also made it through the wild card round. And that would be quite something. Like, the ALCS consists of the Houston Astros and the Boston Red Sox, both of which beat the Dodgers 2 and 3 seasons ago. Excuse me. But for the Dodgers, this is the great opportunity for them to finally shut the people up and saying, "Oh, the Dodgers can't win a full season." It's like, come on. It's like, please, if we're making a huge deal about last season, why didn't your team win it? Why didn't the Rays win it? Why didn't the Angels win it? Why didn't the Brewers win it? Why didn't the Red Sox win it? Why didn't the Yankees win it? Why didn't any other team other than the Dodgers win the shortened season? Like, if you're going to make a huge deal of it, you got to make the argument for everybody. Like, come on now. It's getting rather ridiculous. It's like, I don't care if the Dodgers won a shortened season. Like, a World Series championship is a World Series championship. Like, if you're, like, it's ridiculous. I'm sorry, but it really is ridiculous. So, as for this year, the Dodgers will hopefully be able to take down the Atlanta Braves. I think they can get it done in 6 games. I think it's going to be Dodgers in 6, just like how I would always say Lakers in 6. So I'm sticking with my Dodgers in 6 prediction, and that is my final answer. So we'll see if the Dodgers can get past the Braves. I am confident they can. The Braves do have a good lineup, though, and I think, to me, they are going to be a tough team to get past, especially when they have the home field advantage. But I will also say this, I think the Dodgers have good attrition, despite Clayton Kershaw being out, and also they have a good bullpen as well. I think my concern for the Dodgers would be is if those bats get quiet. If the Dodgers bats get hot, then they're tough to stop. And then if the bullpen is on point, then the Dodgers are also tough to stop. But if the bats are quiet, then the Dodgers are they're digging their own grave. So, all in all, for the Dodgers, I'm still confident they'll win in 6. They just can't underestimate the Braves. And it's a quick turnaround because now the Dodgers have to hop on a plane to Atlanta to face the Braves on Saturday. And it's kind of a not so good deal, but at least the Dodgers get that little bit of rest, which is a bummer, but what can you do? Like, if they didn't want this to happen, they shouldn't have gone to 5 games. They should have won game 3, which they lost 1-0 to the Giants. In that game, it was windy as heck. Like, it was super duper windy, and no home runs were. Well, actually, no, I won't say that. The Giants got a home run off of Evan Longoria, but that was the only home run that was scored, and that was the only run that was scored in general for the game, as the Dodgers couldn't get a run scored, even if their life depended on it, and it's quite funny. So, and then another thing to take away from this series is that in Game 5, Cody Bellinger came up clutch, and everyone was bagging Cody Bellinger this season just because he was not his MVP self, but Bellinger was able to come up big when it matters most. He was able to get that RBI to bring home, I think it was Gavin Lux. But regardless, it was a big-time play for Cody Bellinger, who was facing a lot of criticism this season. So for him, he gets a tip of the cap for me, and I feel silly. And actually, Justin Turner scored. Gavin Lux was at third, which if the Dodgers had scored 2 in that top of the 9th inning, that would have been a little bit more easy. But I was at work yesterday, and I was seeing the score on the ESPN app, and I'm just like, oh my god, it's still 0-0. And then in the 6th inning, the Dodgers scored off of a Corey Seager double, and then Mookie Betts scored, and then The Giants scored off of a home run from Ruff, which was kind of rough for the Giants because, unfortunately, they fell in the NLDS, which it sucks, but what can you do? Like, Darren Ruff. And also I didn't want the Giants to win just because they had a former Angel on their team in Tommy LaStella. And that would have just been a big punch to the face for me, just because LaStella actually got traded away from the Angels, and it was disappointing. Like, thought LaStella was big, and the fact that LaStella also got hurt didn't make matters better for the Giants. But it was what it was. It all came down to attrition, and at the end of the day, the Dodgers had just a little bit more in the tank. So it really sucks that these two teams had to meet in the NLDS, not the NLCS. But I guess that's the flaw of the MLB playoffs. But it is what it is. So gotta come up big when you're at home. And surprisingly enough, 3 out of the 5 wins came on the road for both teams. It's just that the Dodgers were able to get 2 of those 3 wins. So there's that. So that's going to do it for the MLB portion of the show. Let's jump on into some NFL action. So I already recapped the Rams win over the Seahawks, but let's jump on over to the Chargers side of things. So the Chargers were able to squeak out a win over the Cleveland Browns. It was a big victory. They won 47-42. It was a high-scoring affair, and I kind of describe this game as Rams versus Chiefs from 2018, except there was a few less points scored, but not a whole lot of defense. Like, neither defense... I mean, the defense kind of came up big in some sort of way. Something that also needs to be mentioned is that there was some pass interference that was controversially questionable. Like, there was also offensive pass interference, and it was in the fourth quarter, and then instead of offensive pass interference, it was defensive pass interference. And then there was also an offensive holding call on the Browns, and then it was actually defensive. It should have been defensive holding because someone was grabbing the face mask of the offensive guard. So it sucks that the Browns had to lose that way, but who knows? Maybe that could be the turning point of their season. As for the Chargers, they were phenomenal in that game. Justin Herbert was fantastic. I believe he had 5 passing touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken, and then he had 1 rushing touchdown. So that was big right there for him. No, he had 4 passing touchdowns and then 1 rushing touchdown. So 5 altogether. And then Austin Eckler had 2 rushing touchdowns, and he also had a receiving touchdown. One of the touchdowns on the ground for Eckler was that he actually got pushed into the end zone because he didn't want to score. And then the Browns just shoved him into the end zone. They all grabbed him, and then he got pushed into the end zone for the score, which gave the Browns one last chance, but unfortunately they fell short, which was a heartbreaking way to go out for the Browns. There was 41 points scored in that fourth quarter. 41. That's absolutely bananas. And the Chargers trailed by as many as 14 in the third quarter. So the fact that they were able to make a comeback was absolutely phenomenal. And again, I hate how the Chargers had a win in a little bit of controversy because that pass interference did lead to the touchdown. But again, bad calls happen all the time. And the Browns should have... I won't knock the Browns too much, but they maybe should have gotten a little bit more pressure on Justin Herbert. They did get a couple sacks on him, but they didn't make his life a living nightmare. So, all in all for the Browns, they're still a great team, and I think they're going to do great things in this world. The problem is that I think maybe it'll take a little bit more time for the Browns, especially since they were banged up on their offensive line. Their defensive line was banged up, and they also didn't have Jarvis Landry, who is being designated to return from IR. So I wish the Browns the best, and who knows, maybe the Browns and the Chargers can meet in the postseason. That would be a scary thing for the Chargers, though, just because the Browns are a legit team. So we'll see what happens, though. But as for the Chargers, they will be hitting the road to the DMV, aka Maryland, to take on the Baltimore Ravens. Both the Ravens and the Chargers are 4-1. The Ravens actually are coming off of a big victory over the Indianapolis Colts. They had to win in overtime, but they rallied back from a 19-point deficit to win. And Lamar Jackson was pretty good. Like, he overcame some self-inflicted wounds, and he was able to turn the tables and get the Ravens the win, which kept them at 4-1. And that was a huge win because the Ravens were playing like complete slobs in that first half. And then the second half, primarily the third and fourth quarter, they looked a lot better. So for the Chargers, this is going to be a tough one just because they're going on the road. They're playing at Baltimore. They're playing a solid Baltimore team. I won't call the Ravens legit. I mean, they did have most of their games outside of the Broncos game have been one-score affairs, kind of like the Chargers, which is kind of funny. Like, you look at the Ravens' first game. They lost in overtime to the Las Vegas Raiders. Ever since that loss, the Ravens have won 4 in a row. They beat the Chiefs 36-35. They beat the Lions 19-17 off of that crazy game-winning field goal from Justin Tucker. They beat the Broncos 23-17, and they beat the Colts 31-25 in overtime. So, for me, I would not be surprised if this was a one-score game. And honestly, I won't be disappointed if the Chargers lose this game. Like, if the Chargers win, awesome. They're 5-1 and they'll head into the bye. But the fact that they're 4-1 at this point in one of the toughest 4-game stretches I've ever seen speaks to high volumes of how good the Chargers are and how Brandon Staley has done an excellent job getting the Chargers to come together and be all in. As Justin Herbert has looked pretty good. Ever since that loss to the Dallas Cowboys, he hasn't thrown a pick yet, which I hope I don't jinx him. Hopefully I don't, knock on wood. But regardless, it's going to be tough winning at Baltimore. If the Chargers do win this game and they're 5-1 going into the bye, that is huge because they obviously got the news last week where Kenneth Murray was designated to IR, and then Justin Jones is also on IR, so those two won't return until after the bye, which that's not too bad. And then also Brian Bulaga is still not back yet from his core injury, and then also Drew Tranquill suffered a pec injury, but Brandon Staley said it's nothing too serious, which is kind of a relief. And looking at the Chargers' injury report from yesterday, it was rather thin, but it wasn't too promising. It was kind of worrying, if you ask me, because according to their injury report, Mike Williams and Drew Tranquill did not practices, as Mike Williams was dealing with a knee injury, and then Drew Tranquill was dealing with a chest injury. For Mike Williams getting hurt, that's kind of big just because he's been their biggest target. And he did suffer a knee injury in the win over the Browns, which is very concerning. I really hope it's nothing too serious, and I hope Williams is taking it day by day and it's just like some sort of like cramp or something. I don't think that is the case, however, but I don't think it's like a long-term injury. So, and according to Jeff Miller of the LA Times, he also wasn't spotted at Friday's practice. This was just sent in 10 minutes ago, and we'll have to see if the Chargers list Mike Williams on the final injury report. But given that he hasn't practiced Wednesday and or Thursday, his status for Sunday's game looks a little bit cloudy. So that's not good if the Chargers don't have Mike Williams. But again, they kind of need to utilize what they have when it comes to who they do have on their roster that's healthy versus who they don't have on their roster that's healthy. Because the Chargers have many other receivers that they can utilize. They have Keenan Allen, who was phenomenal. I mean, he wasn't big time like Mike Williams was, but he was still phenomenal. They can utilize Jalen Guyton. They can utilize Joshua Palmer, their third-round pick, who hasn't really blossomed. Like, I thought he would be more in the offensive scheme, but you kind of have to remember, Mike Williams Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are wide receiver 2 and 1, and then Guyton is wide receiver 3, so Palmer is kind of the odd man out. Still think the Chargers should have drafted Tommy Tremble, which is kind of disappointing. It would have helped their tight end room, honestly. But the Chargers are starting to utilize their tight ends, which gets me to my next point. The Chargers can utilize other receivers, not just their wide receivers. They could utilize Jared Cook, who had one catch, but it was a big one last week. And then they also could utilize Donald Parham, who caught a 2-point conversion and a touchdown from Justin Herbert. So the Chargers can utilize more players to their advantage that's on the field. And then also they can utilize Austin Eckler, who had himself a big game. So I imagine he'll probably get involved in the passing game. And then I'm surprised the Chargers aren't letting Justin Herbert run with it. I know it's a little risky seeing Justin Herbert run with the ball just because a lot of these quarterbacks are getting hurt, but you got to risk it for the biscuit. And if Brandon Staley is going for it on 4th and 2 within the Chargers 25, he can roll the dice with Justin Herbert and get him involved in the run game too. Now, defensively is going to be tough to stop Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Lamar obviously is a phenomenal and talented quarterback, but the Chargers do know what to expect from the Ravens, as they played Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, twice, as they played him, twice in the past. Like in 2018, they played him in a regular season game, and then they played him in the playoffs, which they did a great job of containing Jackson for the most part until the fourth quarter, which the Chargers almost gave up that game. Jiminy Christmas. Anyway, so the Chargers also got to keep a real sharp eye on Marquise Hollywood Brown. Like, that dude is phenomenal. And they also got to maintain a sharp eye on Mark Andrews. He really came to life against the Colts, honestly. And I think he's starting to prove that he is a good tight end, or a top 10 tight end. He is not top 5 tight end, that's for sure, but he's starting to work his way up. And I think Mark Andrews is doing a great job of getting involved in the passing game, and it just makes the Ravens a much better team. Also, the Chargers have to do a better job of containing Latavius Murray. That guy is their healthiest running back, and no, we're not counting Lamar Jackson, but Latavius Murray could have his way against the Chargers, especially since the Chargers struggled to contain Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Like, it was just ugly on last week when the Chargers played the Browns. And again, they have to play another high-powered offense. I would not be surprised if the Chargers had to win in another high-scoring affair. I think defenses are going to get burned, and I really think that the Chargers are just going to have to dig deep. Unless, of course, they get to Lamar early and they pressure him and then he fumbles the ball. They're going to need to have everyone on it, such as Joey Bosa, Linval Joseph, Derwin James. Derwin James was phenomenal for the Chargers, and he continues to do it all defensively for the Chargers. He's probably, when healthy, Derwin James is one of the best safeties in the league. I really think Derwin James is the difference maker when it comes to this team, and I think he is doing a fantastic job. Every time the Chargers needed to stop the Ravens offensively, Derwin James was there to make the tackle. And he also had a forced fumble, and a sack on Baker Mayfield. I think it was the only sack, if I'm not mistaken, on Baker Mayfield, just because Baker was doing a good job of avoiding the pressure, and he was just handing it off to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So, yeah, looking back at it, I don't think he fumbled once, but I don't think he got sacked any other time. So it's kind of surprising, honestly, for Baker. I think he's doing a great job, and I think he's got it going on. So we'll see if Baker and the Browns can keep it going. But back to the Chargers, I really, really think... speaking of the Browns, Andrew Hagenbaugh just popped in the chat room. He says, have a great show, and he says, you got lucky this time. Yeah, I admit the Chargers kind of got lucky, But the Browns put up a fight despite being shorthanded. Like, I'm also going to say this to close the book on the Browns-Chargers game. The Chargers were not the better team. The Browns were. Despite being banged up, despite being limited offensively and defensively, they made it work. And imagine if they had Jadeveon Clowney as well. That would have made Justin Herbert's day a lot more stressful. Especially since Myles Garrett was able to get past Rashawn Slater and sack Justin Herbert. And we could take Rashawn Slater out of the conversation of Offensive Rookie of the Year, sadly. I mean, he's doing a great job, and I think he only allowed one sack from Myles Garrett, but unfortunately, that was that one sack which basically made everyone say, okay, well, he's not Offensive Rookie of the Year anymore. But back to Chargers-Ravens, I really don't know about their matchup against the Ravens. Like, the Chargers are the biggest ace card out there. Sometimes they're 1, and then sometimes they're 11. I don't know what to expect from this game against the Ravens. I think it'll be close, but being realistic, I think I gotta go with the Chargers losing. I don't want the Chargers to lose, and I'll eat lots of crow if the Chargers lose, or Raven in this case, but I think the Chargers barely miss out on the win. And I think this will be kind of their wake-up call saying, we're not invincible. I think the Chargers still have a lot to work on in terms of their offense and defense, such as, for example, their defense, once again, gave up so many runs to Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. They even let David Njoku roam free, which I don't even remember the last time he scored prior to last week. Because the Browns have so many tight ends, such as Austin Hooper and I think his name is Harrison Bryant. Yeah, Harrison Bryant. And then I saw David Njoku. I'm like, where did this guy come from? So Davidson Crook says, what's good? And then Andrew says, we had loads of injuries, especially on our defense. If people want proof, look at our depth chart this week. Chubb is out for Sunday. Hunt, Garrett, Ward, Clowney, Conklin, Wills, and a few others are questionable this week. Loads of injuries. There you go. The fact that the Browns almost pulled out the win against the Chargers on the road, even though there were some Browns fans. There was a good amount of Browns fans. I think it was like, I don't want to say this is true, but I think it was like 70-30 in favor of Chargers fans. I'm not sure. But Andrew Hagenvall hit it on the head. Like, there was lots of injuries for the Browns, and they're even more banged up. Like last week's game kind of took a lot out of the Browns. Like, not having Chubb is huge, and then not having Kareem Hunt would be even bigger, and not having Myles Garrett was not 100% as well. And again, not having Jadeveon Clowney also hurt, and then Jack Conklin getting hurt also kind of dampened the Browns. But I kind of think but again, back to the Chargers and Ravens. I think the Chargers take a close loss on this one. I think the Chargers lose 31-28. I've been saying that score quite a bit, but I think it's the more realistic score. I think the Chargers and Ravens go back and forth, and then I think, sadly, and I would not be surprised if this happened, the Chargers lose off of a field goal from Justin Tucker. And it would be quite fitting, because guess what the Chargers struggle in? Kicking! Speaking of kicking, Tristan Vizcaino missed 2 extra points, but everyone was missing extra points, so it wasn't a day of missed extra points in the NFL if the Chargers weren't missing. So I just think I hate to pick against the Chargers just because I'm a Chargers fan, but I think the Chargers will fall just short to the Ravens. It's no love lost, though. I think, obviously, the rest of the AFC West is going to be happy, but I think this is going to be the wake-up call the Chargers need, especially before the bye week. My only hope is that I hope the Chargers do prove me wrong, and because depending on who wins between the Broncos and the Raiders could move closer to the Chargers depending on if my prediction comes true. But I'm predicting the Ravens beating the Chargers 31-28 realistically. But I think it's going to be a barn burner between the Chargers and the Ravens. It's going to be an instant classic. And then Andrew says, if the Browns were healthy, their defense is ranked number 3 in the NFL, and their offense is 6th. But I'm sure you guys win this week. Ravens haven't looked good at all this season. I kind of agree. I totally agree. And again, if the Chargers do prove me wrong, I will go on the record and say I was wrong, and I will gladly eat my crow. But honestly, it could be one of those games where the Chargers have their emotions a little too high from the Browns, and then their emotions kind of get the better of them, and then they just find a way to lose a tight one. But again, part of me really wants to see the Chargers be 5-1. But I'm not disappointed at all, because this is the toughest 6-game stretch I think of any team has to face. If there's any other tough 6-game stretches, I would definitely like to know. But I think the Chargers 6-game stretch is really proving critical at this point. And this is kind of the reason why the Chargers are 4-1. Because you look at the Chargers' 6 games, and Andrew says, he truly thinks this is the year that it's either going to be between the Chargers, Browns, and Bills for the AFC. I agree. And I think the fourth team, if I kind of had to add to the fray, would probably be the Chiefs. Because once the Chiefs get it together, I think they'll finally be back to form. I don't think it'll be too soon, but I'm not taking my eye off the Chiefs. I am making sure the Chiefs do not, and I repeat, do not come back to power, because the Chiefs are still a big threat. They're just struggling at the moment, and they're just going through that phase of they're not looking so hot. So they're not looking so hot. Their defense is leaky. They've got some injuries they're dealing with, and they got to learn that they're not the dominant Chiefs team they have been in the past. So, but anyway, looking at this game, even if the Chargers do somehow lose, I won't be disappointing. And back to the Chargers' 6-game stretch, they faced Washington, barely won against that one on the road. They faced Dallas. I think Dallas having more rest kind of made the difference, and I think the Chargers underestimated the Cowboys just because everyone was saying, oh, the defense is so bad. Well, we forgot that Trayvon Diggs was a thing. And then the Chiefs, winning at the Chiefs was huge, and the winning at the Browns was also huge. So if the Chargers can win at the Ravens, that it really helps them out in the long run, just because they'll get the bye, and then the following week they'll take on the Patriots, a team that has given the Chargers fits. And I don't know why. Maybe it's a Bill Belichick thing. But looking at the Chargers' schedule after that, they have the Patriots following their bye, and then their schedule starts to lighten up a bit. They have the Eagles, which they're kind of up and down. They have the Vikings, which are also up and down. The Steelers, which are starting to get it together, but I don't think they're getting it fully together. I mean, Big Ben is still their QB. Good Lord. And then another interesting / challenging matchup could be Chargers at the Broncos. Now, the Broncos aren't the big problem. Winning at Denver is kind of the problem. That seems to be the Chargers' house of horrors. Winning at Denver and playing the New England Patriots. I don't know why the Chargers struggle when it comes to playing at Mile High Stadium, or I don't know why they struggle against Bill Belichick, but I don't know. And then looking at the remaining schedule, Chargers have the Bengals after they're on the road against the Broncos, followed by the Giants, then the Chiefs, then the Texans, then the Broncos at SoFi, then the Raiders at Allegiant Stadium. And fun fact about the Raiders, they actually had more fans. They had more Bears fans last weekend than Raiders fans. So to all the Raiders fans that were basically running their mouth saying that the Chargers have to play every road game or every home game on the road, or they have more fans getting outnumbered, well, joke's on you. And then Andrew says the Chiefs won't for the fact is that they have a very, very poor defense. Just stop their offense and it's over. Facts. I should also, to close the book on the Chargers, I should also make note that their win over the Browns was also impressive just because they did it on a short number of days of rest. Just because, remember, they had that Monday Night Football game, and then they had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, and then they had their final walkthrough on Saturday where the Browns had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then their walkthrough on Saturday. I'm not trying to take anything away from the Browns, and I'm not trying to say the Browns didn't deserve to win, but I think it was still an impressive win due to the fact that the Chargers had a limited number of days to prepare. But it's only one day, but I digress. All right, that's enough for the Chargers. Now let's jump on over to the Rams. So the Rams, they have not played since last Thursday, which is a good thing. They have a lot of rest. So now they'll be hitting the road to East Rutherford to take on the New York Football Giants. So looking at the next 3 games for the Rams, this is a good opportunity to build off of that 4-1 record. Because the Rams have only really struggled in a couple games. The Colts game, which they barely won by the hair on their chinny chin chins. Excuse me. And then the Cardinals game, which was a complete train wreck. They should beat the Giants this week. I imagine the Giants will not have Saquon Barkley because of someone stepping on his ankle, but it's not season ending. I don't think they'll have Daniel Jones, who has a concussion, though I did hear he's trending in the right direction, if I'm not mistaken. And then I don't think they'll have Kenny Golladay, and then Tony is, I don't remember his first name, it's like Kadarius Toney. I actually have Tony on my fantasy team, which is ironic enough. I was right, Kadarius Toney. So yeah, the Rams should have a really good chance at winning. Like, there's no way the Rams should be winning this by less than 2 scores. If they do, I will be disappointed. Because the Rams are basically, in terms of attrition, in terms of offense, in terms of defense, in terms of special teams, they're miles better than the Giants. And the only way they lose is if they shoot themselves in the foot. Matt Stafford, heaven forbid, does not get. If Matt Stafford plays his worst game like he was with the Lions, and yeah, you get what I'm trying to say. You get what I'm trying to say. All the Rams just need to do is show up, actually play football, and then they win. I'm not saying it's going to be a walk in the park because any given Sunday, but I think that the Rams just need to play to their own level and focus on themselves. And then, and like I said, after the Giants, the Rams have the Detroit Lions, which that's kind of a Matt Stafford versus his old team kind of thing. And then the following week, the Rams hit the road to Texas to take on the Houston Texans. So that's the good thing. The bad thing is that the Rams have 3 tough games after that. 2 of the 3 are actually in prime time. And then most of their schedule is kind of up there. Like, after those 3 games, like I just mentioned, their only gimme games are kind of against the Jaguars and maybe the Vikings. I'm not trying to, and depending on how the Vikings shape up, if they get back, what's their face, Dalvin Cook, could determine on if the Vikings could be a possible playoff contender. So there's that for the Rams, but I have the Rams winning. I don't want to be too mean to the Giants, but I think the Rams will win, let's say 35-10. I just said let's not be too mean, but I say 35-10. I think that realistically that'll be as good as it gets. If not, maybe 34-10. Just to be a little bit more nicer. But I think 35-10 is kind of the expected score. Surprisingly enough, the what's their faces, the Rams are not. They're not favorited by a lot more than what they should be favorited by. So they're favored by 9 points. I'm kind of surprised at that, but it is what it is. And then Andrew adds, it's all good. Browns are on a short week this week, and they play Sunday and Thursday. Ooh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot. If I'm not mistaken, the Browns play the Cardinals, and then they play the Broncos on Thursday Night Football, which that'll be an interesting game, that Thursday Night Football game is. Please do the Chargers a favor. Beat the Broncos. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? Anyway, so that'll do it for the NFL portion of the show. Let's jump on into some MLS action between LAFC and the LA Galaxy. Both teams did not have any matches this past week, as they just concluded El Tráfico with a 1-1 tie. This Saturday, LAFC is at home to take on the San Jose Quakes. Both the Galaxy and LAFC are long overdue for wins. The Galaxy have not won in over 2 months, while LAFC has not won in over a month. So, oh my goodness. And then the Galaxy are at home to take on the Portland Timbers. I'm just going to be honest, this game against Portland is going to be a huge game, because first and foremost, Portland is number 4 in the Western Conference. You know who used to be number 4 in the Western Conference? The Galaxy. Portland is now 7 points back of the Timbers, and they're actually tied with Real Salt Lake, and they're only 1 point ahead of Minnesota United, and they're only 2 points ahead of the Vancouver Whitecaps. So, poor Galaxy. They really gotta turn it around here. This is ridiculous. And the worst part is they have 6 games remaining. They have Portland, and then they kind of get a little bit of a breather against the Houston Dynamo and then Dallas. But then their last 3 games are super duper tough, as they have Kansas City on the road, then Seattle on the road, and then they're back home against Minnesota, which that could actually prove to be the difference maker in whoever makes or misses the playoffs between those two teams. So for the Galaxy, they really got to step it up. The fact that they haven't won in over 2 months really sucks. And a win over Portland would be huge. Obviously, a tie would be pretty good, but not necessarily. They need to start pulling ahead of Minnesota by a lot. And they also need to be pulling ahead of Real Salt Lake. Speaking of Real Salt Lake, they are at home against the Colorado Rapids, and I hope the Rapids do beat Real Salt Lake, because that would actually help the Galaxy's chances of making the playoffs. I mean, obviously, it would prevent Real Salt Lake from getting points, but it would help the Galaxy if they could actually beat Portland, because that would be huge to boost their chances and push them up further and further in the Western Conference. So, especially with the 2-game stretch that they have, that they should be able to win those 2 games. But then again, the Galaxy did lose to Austin FC a couple weeks ago, in prime time, mind you. So that was a bummer. And then as for LAFC, they have San Jose, like I said. San Jose is also kind of a Western Conference hopeful. They are number 10, but they are they have 33 points and they're 5 games back of Minnesota. So that game is also crucial for the Quakes. And then for LAFC, next week they are at Dallas, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, they are at Dallas. Then the following week they're at Minnesota. Well, next Wednesday they're at Dallas, and then next Saturday they are at Minnesota. So it's a 2-game road trip in the same week. And then LAFC they don't have the most brutal schedule in terms of their last 3 games, but LAFC does play Seattle at home, which that's a primetime game, and it's on Tuesday. And then that's also on the 26th. And then after that, they get a little bit of a break as they also have another Tuesday game against Vancouver, another Western Conference hopeful, and then LAFC closes the regular season against Colorado. So all in all, for LAFC, they also kind of have to step it up. But it's a little bit more embarrassing for the Galaxy to not be a little bit higher in the Western Conference standings, just because the Galaxy have been in the top 4 throughout most of the season. And the fact that they could miss the playoffs after they've been in the top 4, maybe top 3, is embarrassing. As we say hello to Marcus Los Great, he says, what up, doe? And he says, I've been missing these too early. Yeah, I apologize, Marcus, just because I've had to shuffle this show around because I've been busy in the afternoon and whatnot just because of work. So, but thank you for tuning in, my brother. I appreciate you, and thanks for your support. So, back to LAFC. Personally, I don't necessarily hate LAFC, but I don't think we're going to be missing a whole lot if they miss the playoffs. Now, if the Galaxy miss the playoffs, it'll be like their second straight season missing the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. Just because I want to see the Galaxy back in the postseason. Everyone wants to see the Galaxy back into the postseason. They're too good of a program or club or team to be missing the playoffs for, the second straight year? Like, come on, Galaxy. You gotta do better. Especially, like I said, they've been in the top 4 of the Western Conference quite a bit. And then, unfortunately for them, they've kind of slipped off because of possible injuries and then just playing down their competition and just not getting points when it matters most. So, that's pretty much going to do it for the MLS portion of the show. Let's take ourselves a quick little commercial breaky break. When we come back, we will have more Southern California sports action, and also we have the Dum Dum of the Week award. So, can't miss that now. So, you are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all of that sports. We'll be right back after this.
From the shores of the Puget Sound to the rushing waters of the Columbia River, stretching across the Great Cascades, and on IE Sports Radio lives the Northwest Territory Sports Show, hosted by me, Brad Buckingham. On this show, I cover all the great collegiate and professional sport teams that we have here in the Pacific Northwest. Of course, I'm talking about the Seattle Seahawks, Seattle Mariners, Sounders, and even the Seattle Kraken. But I can't forget all of that is good in Oregon either. I got the Trailblazers, the Oregon Ducks, the Beavers, even the Timbers, and much, much more. You can listen to the show every Sunday from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern, noon to 1 p.m. Pacific on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
everybody? This is Teran Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Harrison Glazer, and we're coming at you from the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. I cover the Jets, the Islanders, the Nets, and the Yankees.
This is Pierre Moss, and I cover the Mets, Knicks, Rangers, and the Giants.
Our show is live every Wednesday through Spreaker and a bunch of other ways to get our content. Again, we're the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. We talk about all those New York sports. It's a lot of fun. We get into all of it. Please tune in. Again, that's Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
And we look forward to having you guys right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. You can check out all of our amazing shows, such as The Show That Never Sleeps with Harrison Glazer and Pierre Moss, and Northwest Territory Sports with Brad Buckingham, and also Set Point. And you can also check out Marcus Lowe's great show, Gloves Off. He did a fantastic job recapping Wilder and Fury. It was really awesome. And also check out the State of Ohio Sports, which is going to be going live at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern. And I was on last week's show, which was really awesome. So thank you to Andrew Hagenboff for having me on his show. I don't know if you're still listening, but I really do appreciate it. Now, let's get on into segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, because we have quite a bit of SoCal sports to recap, and then we have the Dum Dum of the Week award, and then I'll send you all on your way. All right, so NCAA football action. USC lost to Utah this past weekend. I don't know why I gotta keep recapping this, but USC lost at the Coliseum to Utah. It's one thing to lose at Utah. I understand that it's really tough to win at Utah, and I know Utah's a good team and they've been through a lot, but the fact that USC lost their third game at the Coliseum is rather ridiculous. And it's not that it was disappointing, mind you. Like, obviously, disappointment is like a puppy that follows teams and people around everywhere. But it's just disappointing in the fact that, get this, everybody, get this. Well, first and foremost, let me just tell you that USC lost to Utah by a score of 42-26. I don't care. I don't care if it was by 6 points. Probably most of those points that USC scored were in garbage time. And yes, they scored 16 points in garbage time. This game was well out of reach. They were down 35-10 after 3 quarters. And that was pretty much that. Like, even though USC did add a touchdown in the third quarter to make it 35-18, and with a 2-point conversion, Utah scored on a 1-yard touchdown pass, and then the last touchdown from USC was basically a garbage time touchdown. But the reason why this loss is disappointing is because, get this, it was USC's first loss to Utah in California since 1916. I'm not kidding you. Let me say that again, nice and slowly. USC's loss to Utah was the first loss to Utah in California since 1916. That is 105 years. That's how disappointing that loss is. Over 105 years since USC last lost at California to Utah. I don't care if this has been a merry-go-round season for USC. This is ridiculous. It's one thing to lose to Stanford, then to lose to Oregon, or Oregon State. But to lose to Utah at the Coliseum, how many more USC fans' hearts are you going to break? It's like the Chargers. It's like I'm watching the Chargers being coached by Anthony Lynn. This is ridiculous. I don't get it. They didn't even get an interception on Utah. I don't understand what's happening here. Like, did it? I don't even think USC. No, USC didn't even get a turnover on Utah. Ridiculous. Oh my goodness. Like, USC, stop. Just please do me a favor. Blow it up. There's no way USC will win the Pac-12 now because they have 3 losses. There's no way they could win the Pac-12 South with 3 losses. The only way they win is if they're the recipient of the of winning the Pac-12 South can't play in the Pac-12 championship game, then the runner-up after that can't play, and then it goes all the way down to USC being the only team that can field a team to play in the championship game, to the point where they'll probably play either Washington or Stanford or Oregon. You get the point. But, oh my gosh, USC, why are you doing this? Like, why you gotta, put needles through our bodies? Like, it hurts. Oh my goodness. And you want to know what's worse? USC hits the road to Indianapolis, or South Bend, Indiana, to take on Notre Dame, which I don't see how Notre Dame loses this. Like, I know USC has actually been good on the road. They have not lost a road game, which I don't know how that happens. Like, USC's only 2-0 on the road, and they've played Washington State and Colorado, both of which are not really that good. So, if they can get that chalet back, I think USC, that might be the silver lining of this season, or the victory bell from UCLA, but they still have that sucker. So I don't know about you all, but I really don't think USC is going to be winning this one. I mean, if they do, I will eat my crow, but against Notre Dame, that team is still pretty good. But this has been a very disappointing season for SC. Like, some are even saying USC won't go bowling, and I would be surprised if that actually happened. I mean, looking at USC's schedule, they're currently 3-3, so I have them losing to Notre Dame. I have them beating Arizona. I have them lose. I don't think they'll beat Arizona State. I'm certain USC will beat Cal. If they can't beat Cal, then that's it. We gotta flush the season down the toilet. Then it's a disappointment. And then I also have USC. Spoiler: I have USC defeating UCLA. They have to win at the Coliseum. If this was at the Rose Bowl, it wouldn't be as disappointing or embarrassing. But USC has to win against UCLA at the Coliseum. If they can't, then they got to flush the season down the toilet. And then USC plays BYU. BYU has surprisingly been not as bad as most people have been giving them credit for, even with the graduation of Zach Wilson. Well, not graduation of Zach Wilson, the departure of Zach Wilson. But regardless, I don't think UCLA beats BYU. So USC would be 6-6. I still think they'd be bowl game eligible, but I don't think they'd be in like the biggest bowl. I think they'd be in like the LA Bowl with like San Diego State or whatnot. But oh my good golly gracious. Marcus says has to win. Yes, they have to win. They have to. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like if they at least they really have to win against UCLA. Like if there's anything, they gotta win for pride. Like I know Notre Dame's gonna be a toughie, but they gotta beat UCLA. Like that's my only thing that's pretty much the big goal right now. They cannot afford to lose to UCLA. Otherwise, it's gonna be rather embarrassing, and then their reputation will take a hit. And then Marcus says, firing Helton at the start of the season made no sense. That's actually true. I think that also really deterred them. I understand that Helton was on the hot seat, but firing a coach at the opening climax of the season did not do the Trojans that much good. I mean, it did them good because they finally got the Helton monkey off their back, but then they had to like throw Dante Williams into the fire, and then he had to be interim coach, and then it's basically you have to learn a new system, and I God bless Dante Williams for stepping in and then just trying to get the team's minds right, but I just don't think USC had that emotion to like turn it around and like adapt to a fully new system. I also should make note that USC also cannot lose to Arizona. If they lose to Arizona, and that happens to be Arizona's one loss of the season, it's going to be embarrassing. Because, first and foremost, Arizona's actually yanking kids. Well, they're getting kids to sign from California. They even got one kid that was originally committed to USC to flip his commitment to Arizona. That's just how sickening it is for USC. And then Marcus says, Helton had to go, no doubt, but they should have fired him with a game or two left. Yeah, I think that did not do the players any favors because some of those players had a bond with Helton, and even though Helton just wasn't the greatest coach, I think it kind of like hurt the players emotionally and mentally. And not that Dante Williams is a bad guy, but it's just that players like Keaton Slovis and Vave Ma'ala had to basically like rearrange their minds and say Helton is no longer here, and it's because of us or other things of that sort. So at this point, I'm just hoping for pride. The USC is playing for pride. And also USC is playing on prime time. They are playing on NBC, so USC has that pressure to go along with it. So if USC does pull off the victory against Notre Dame, I will be darn right impressed. And oh boy, I will be eating loads of crow. And also, they will be getting that prize chalet back. I think that's what it's pronounced, the chalet. Either way, good luck the rest of the season, USC. Just please don't break our hearts any further. All right, now let's jump to the other school. UCLA. So UCLA is coming off of a 34-16 victory. Big whoop-de-doo. It was at halftime. It was rather close. It was 14-13 at halftime. I was surprised it was that close. It's like, why so close, UCLA? Anyway, it was still, the strange thing about this game against Arizona, they didn't pass the ball a whole lot. Whereas against Arizona State, they passed the ball quite a bit. But I guess to each his own. Against Arizona, Jordan McLeod, unfortunately, is out for the season with a season-ending, I think it's a knee injury, if I'm not mistaken. So, another scenario of USC cannot lose to Arizona, by the way. So, back to UCLA. Unranked UCLA after their loss to Arizona State. So, Britton Brown had himself quite the day, as the dude had 146 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. That was cool right there. So good for you, UCLA. They won, and I guess they keep their small Pac-12 South hope alive. I don't think they'll catch up to Arizona State, though. We'll see. Anyway, UCLA hits the road to Seattle to take on Washington, as I kind of feel this is one of those games this could go. I don't know if this will go UCLA's way. Like, I think it'll be a win, but something's telling me that Washington will win this one. I just have this weird feeling in my mind that Washington's going to find some way to just pull it out of their hat and get the win. Although DTR has been way better than Dylan Morris, like, that kind of makes no sense that Washington is starting a freshman quarterback. But then again, Washington had a lot of quarterbacks transfer from last season, including Ethan Garbers, who, strangely enough, transferred to UCLA. So, ESPN's matchup predictor actually has Washington winning. It's just so weird. Like, I think this is one of those games where I think this could either keep the hope of UCLA winning the Pac-12 South alive, or this could be the match, or this could be the game that kills the Pac-12 South hopes of UCLA, and this kind of revives Washington's chances at winning the Pac-12 North. It really is tough to determine this, considering, I don't know. I think originally when we started the season, I had UCLA losing this game, but UCLA is looking a lot better than I expected. So, you know what? I'm going to predict UCLA winning. I think UCLA wins this one. I think they're going to win it in a little uglier fashion than normal. I will probably be eating. I'm probably going to this. Now that I've said UCLA is going to win, they're probably going to lose, and I'm going to be eating lots of crow, like I did a couple weeks ago when UCLA lost to Arizona State. But as for this matchup, I think UCLA beats Washington 27-24 off of a game-winning field goal. Again, I will eat my crow if UCLA loses, but I think UCLA pulls this one off. I think Washington has been anything but spectacular this season. Like, that team lost to Montana State, and they got curb stomped by Michigan, and they barely beat Cal in overtime, and they lost to Oregon State last week 27-24. I think Washington State loses, or not Washington State, I think Washington loses again. So this time I think UCLA is going to put the nail in the coffin when it comes to that chance of winning the Pac-12 North. I just don't think Washington has the dogs. Get it? Dogs. Huskies. Anyway, I just don't think Washington has the dogs to take down the Bruins. So that's just my take. We'll see how it goes. Again, Washington struggled to beat Cal, and they lost to Oregon State. That should spell Washington is super suspect. So have fun, UCLA. Just just don't prove me wrong. Otherwise, I will gladly be getting dunked on quite a bit. So, yeah. So that's going to do it for UCLA football. Let's jump on over to some San Diego State football, as they'll be playing San Jose State They'll be playing San Jose State tonight. I keep forgetting that some of these games that San Diego State has are Friday games, like the UNLV game as well. So, against San Jose State, I think San Diego State remembers this team quite well. That was the team that started the beginning of the end for them last season, as San Diego State lost to San Jose State on a Friday, and it was downright embarrassing for the Aztecs, as the Aztecs actually had quite a big amount of expectations from last season, but they just underachieved because they lost to San Jose State, and they also eventually lost to Nevada. And it also didn't help that they didn't have the best offense in the world. Like, their offense looked about as effective as a butter knife in a sword fight. But anyway, I think San Diego State gets their revenge on San Jose State. Last weekend, they defeated New Mexico 31-7. It was quite the impressive victory, as I made a mistake. I thought San Diego State was on bye last week. I forgot that was the week before. But San Diego State is on a short week this week, as Greg Bell is approaching a big milestone for San Diego State. I think he's vastly approaching the single-season rushing touchdown leader. So there is that right there. And honestly, I think he can get there. For San Diego State, however, I think it's going to be the battle of if they can get Greg Bell going, and if they could prevent San Jose State from slowing down Greg Bell. If anything, we may have to have Jordan Brookshire throwing the ball for San Diego State. So we'll see what happens in that matchup. But I have San Diego State winning 35-24. I think San Jose State will make it interesting, but I got San Diego State coming out on top in this one, just because San Diego State has been looking really good. Yes, they defeated. Some of their opponents have been rather meh, like New Mexico State, which they struggled with, Arizona, Towson, and New Mexico. The only true legit victory for San Diego State that they had was, ironically enough, Utah, as they beat them in overtime. So, wait a second. If Utah lost to USC, but beat if Utah beat USC but lost to San Diego State, does that mean San Diego State is better than USC? I'm kidding. That's not a good comparison. But all in all, for San Diego State, I could see them going 6-0. Like, the best part about them being 5-0 is their chance at being 6-0. And they have a big game next week against Air Force. My only true advice for San Diego State would be not to look ahead. If they look ahead, then they could lose. Especially since this is a road game and they have two of them things in a row. So we'll see if San Diego State can hold off San Jose State and then eventually get to that big matchup against Air Force. And then they could look at Fresno State, who I think might have been crashed back down to earth, but we'll see. Well, that's going to do it for the NCAA football portion of the show in terms of the FBS. Now let's jump on over to the FCS, as we have to talk about some San Diego and Cal Poly action. Just because they are Southern California, we can't knock that, obviously. Like we ain't knocking that. We ain't about that life, y'all. So for San Diego, if I remember correctly, San Diego did get the win last weekend, and honestly, I couldn't believe that they actually won. They defeated Butler 52-21 last weekend, which is a big hallelujah moment. And that's actually a big win because it builds off of their win over St. Thomas. So good for San Diego. They're actually 2-1 in their conference. So they still have a long ways to go, but they're 2-1 in their conference, 2-4 overall. Next game for the Toreros is a home game against Drake at 2 p.m. So Drake is 2-4, just like the Toreros. I kind of see the Toreros winning that one, but I don't know much about Drake. And no, we're not talking about Drake the rapper, which is unfortunate, but c'est la vie. And then Cal Poly, on the other hand, they play UC Davis this... No. Cal Poly is on bye. So they have a bye this week, but then next week they are at home against UC Davis. I'll go over that matchup when the time comes, but for right now, I think Davis will probably win that one. Ironically enough, it's actually the Big West Conference matchup that isn't really the Big West Conference, just because there is no Big West Conference in football. It's theoretic, because Davis and Cal Poly, the only corresponding Big West Conference teams, are the only teams in the Big West Conference that have a football team, if that really makes sense. Cal State Fullerton and Long Beach State used to have football teams back in the day, but then, unfortunately, financial issues became a thing, and they disbursed those two teams. So, yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it for some NCAA football action. So before we get out of here, we got to award the Dum Dum of the Week award. And the Dum Dum of the Week award goes out to someone or something that does something rather stupid or just does something very loserish. And it could be anyone. It could be my neighbor, it could be my brother, it could be anybody. No one is safe from the Dum Dum of the Week award. And I got 2 Dum Dum of the Week awards to award. So the first one goes to myself. So I've been putting this off of me being the Dum Dum of the Week award for days. And hold on, let me just get something real quick. Alright, so I've been putting off being the Dum Dum of the Week award for quite a while, but now I think it is my time to be the Dum Dum of the Week award, just because I did something rather silly. So this happened on Wednesday when I went to the grocery store, and I didn't want to break the bank when it came to me getting something to eat, but I decided I actually had a coupon in my wallet, and I was like, you know what, let's get me something good to eat and not break the bank. Because then I will not be breaking the bank, and I will be doing myself a favor and getting myself something good for a cheaper price. I had an 8-piece grilled chicken for $4.99, and it was perfect. It was the perfect thing it was absolutely perfect to have that coupon in my wallet. And it was 8-piece chicken for $4.99, and I got my chicken from the deli department. And then I went to the self-checkout, and I scanned the chicken. It came up as the original price of $7.99. And then I scanned my coupon, and it wasn't working. It wasn't taking it. And I needed to call the attendant to help. And she was wondering the same thing. She was wondering why the coupon wasn't working. And then, unfortunately for me, she found the problem. The coupon did not start until next week. Yep, I done messed up. Because I thought the coupon was started right now just because I got it in the mail. And to me, I didn't know that the coupon didn't start till next week. So my advice to all you coupon clippers out there, read when the coupon starts and read the expiration date. Otherwise, you'll make the mistake of paying full price for chicken. And I didn't want to just say, oh, I don't want this chicken. So I kind of had to buy it, and it was $8+ because of tax and whatnot. So my advice to you all, once again, read the expiration date, read the exact deal, and make sure you don't, miss out on the date, or make sure you don't jump the gun on the date. But because of my crucial mistake of not reading the coupon correctly, I'm this week's Dum Dum of the Week award, part 1.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Yep, I told you no one was safe from the Dum Dum of the Week award. Even I could get the Dum Dum of the Week award. And as my boy Marcus Los Great would say, the nerve of you, and the nerve of me indeed. So, at least I now have the coupon for this week. Alright, so that's the first Dum Dum of the Week award out of the way. Now for Dum Dum of the Week award number 2. And this isn't just one Dum Dum of the Week. It's multiple Dum Dum of the Week awards. Okay, so, and this isn't directly aimed toward anybody. This is basically to all the experts who suddenly judge on something. Now, everyone has the right to an opinion on something. Everyone has the right to basically say their mind or speak their mind. But to this one, I need to get this out of the way real quick. I'm really getting sick and tired of seeing everybody make such a huge deal about preseason sports. Preseason NFL, I don't care. Preseason NBA, I really don't care. Everyone is making their hot takes and their absolute mind-blowing conclusions about certain players, teams, and whatnot, and it's only preseason. It's like, are we kidding me? And everyone is making memes when it comes to preseason, and I'm like, dude, it's only preseason. No one cares about preseason scores. For example, like the Lakers went 0-5 in preseason, and everyone is starting to say Kings are going to be playoff bound because not the LA Kings, but the Sacramento Kings are playoff bound. Like, bro, please stop with that nonsense. Sacramento Kings haven't been relevant since 2002. Like, why are we making this conclusion that the Kings are going to make the playoffs? Why are we making this conclusion that the Lakers have fallen off when it's only preseason? I get people want to make their conclusions, but preseason does not mean anything. Preseason is for player development and player attrition. If a player's hurt, then that's when we jump to conclusions. If a player is digressing, it's not that big of a deal just because it's preseason. It's to work off the rust. And yet I'm hearing so many people making ridiculous claims that maybe the Lakers have fallen off. We can't make that claim just yet. It's only preseason. I did not care when the Lakers went 4-0 last year. I simply did not care. I said, Laker fans, let's just be real. I'm happy the Lakers won, but it's only preseason. Stop pouring the champagne, please. So, I know everyone has their different opinions on this. I understand the whole preseason versus regular season thing is basically debatable. And I understand preseason can be somewhat of a preview, but I don't like how people are making ridiculous claims about certain players and certain teams just because they underachieved in preseason. So for everybody, ranging from Skip Bayless to Nick Wright and to any of these so-called experts that are just making a huge deal about preseason, whether it's in the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, or heck, even NCAA volleyball, you are this week's Dum Dum of the Week award.
So dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And that, my friends, is all she wrote. Please do me a favor and stop drinking the Kool-Aid when it comes to preseason. Just please, I beg of you. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, it is time we get on out of here, because I imagine we might have another show coming on in less than a half hour. You dig? Thank you very much to everyone tuning into the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I appreciate you all. One more thing to note before we get on out of here is that the Anaheim Ducks defeated defeated the Winnipeg Jets 4-1 on Wednesday in their season opener. And then yesterday, the LA Kings defeated Vegas Golden Knights 6-2. Great job to both the Kings and the Ducks picking up victories. Awesome job. That's going to do it for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show this week. Once again, I appreciate everybody tuning in live on the playback. Shout out to the chat room, Marcus Los Great, Andrew Hagenbach, and David Crooks for tuning in. I really do appreciate you all. And to those that are listening at any time in the day, even in the wee hours of the morning, I really do appreciate you. For everyone here at iSports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. You all have yourself a great weekend. Enjoy some sports. Just be a good person to everybody and anybody and anyone and anything. And I will see you on the other side. Have a great weekend. And remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace!